class is a meta class, pedagogy, right? Preparing and teaching your own class. One of the things that we're going to be doing is this is going to be an interactive thing, so I'm not just going to be talking at you this whole time. So, before we get fully started, please note, there is a general overview. This is a roadmap of what we're going to be doing, all right? First things first, I'm going to assign some in-class homework that we're going to be doing throughout the class. Sorry, we're back in school. From there, we're going to be talking about a motivational phrase to actually get this party going emotionally, not just intellectually. Then we're actually going to get into the process of preparing a class. I'm going to have two parts. Part one is going to be preparing before, right? Part two is going to be day of, right? This all makes sense. After that, we're going to be talking about performance. We're going to be talking about public speaking. I'm going to mention other people who taught today here at RUM, and we're going to finish off by discussing two things. When nobody shows up, which, by the way, plurals are highly encouraged to give their feedback on this one. And then lastly, further resources for teaching and building courses. Some of these are SEA resources, other resources are more academic. This is me drawing from my professional background. I used to be a college professor. I took classes on pedagogy. This is kind of what I'm bringing into the system. Now, first things first, motivational phrase. Question, is somebody interested in here teaching a class but hasn't been anxious and said, would anybody care? Would anybody be anxious about teaching? Yep. Don't worry, same here. Right? I've had that issue too, where there's been, what if I want to teach about this? Well, other people teach about it, right? So what do I have to say? That's anything special? I call bullshit on that. The reason I call bullshit on that, Your Excellency, is because nobody has the particular background and perspective that you do. If you're going to teach a class on something that is common, like for example, building a teaching, right? Nobody's done it in your particular way, right? Maybe you know something that other people don't. And with that, I'm going to give you all the particular homework that we're going to be working on today. You thought I forgot about it, but I didn't. For the purposes of this class, I want you all to consider a class that you would like to teach. Which is to say, by the end of this class, period, I want you all to have a basic outline of a class that you would think is really cool. If it's something that you just think is really cool and you want to geek out about it, do that. Start there. Actually, clarifying question. For those folks, if you're going to teach one class that you would be really excited about, what would it be? Give me some. Yes.
History of the ocarina.
History of the ocarina as a woodwind, isn't it? Very much great. Where would it start? The culture, or more of a practical? This is how you get a scale out of it.
Where it came from, how it kind of developed over the years.
Right.
It's been getting more popular recently, at least in the States and nowhere else. And then just the base, this is how you play a few notes and blah, blah, blah.
So a little bit of a practicum and also historical background. Right, yeah. Any other? Yes.
Oh my God, too many ideas.
Give me one. First one comes to mind.
Gender and sexuality in the Ottoman Empire.
Fantastic.
Nice.
Right? What are the laws around sexuality around that? Or is there laws that kind of create?
Laws versus actual behavior custom.
Ah, yes. Right? Words versus practice. Yeah, I believe Michelle Foucault is something that you want to get involved with. Excellent. So we have ideas, right? Cooking, don't we? If we don't, this is your opportunity to start thinking about it. Okay. So now that we have that, you can actually do the thing because nobody's done the thing in your version before. And besides, it might provide new perspectives into the thing. How do we actually talk about the thing? Personally, I'm a big foodie. I like eating a lot. I do. And one of the ways that I like to talk about preparing a class is through food. So, for example, if we're going to build a burger, right? Big fan of a good cheeseburger. You know what I mean? It is what it is. I like it. We start with our top bun, don't we? And with our top bun, we're going to be talking about topics. What are you teaching, right? Gender and sexuality in the Ottoman Empire. Ocarinas, right? History and practice, right? Anything else? Give me some.
How did you die in the 15th century?
How do you die in the 15th century? A class that I really wanted to take today that was unfortunately canceled was surgery in the Middle Ages, right? That would have been really cool. So what is the main lesson that you want to build towards? If students are taking your class, if the audience is listening, what is the one thing that you want to make sure they get? Okay? That's the first thing. Underneath that is, what are the main parts of that lesson? So if we're talking about gender and sexuality, for example, we need to talk about gender, we need to talk about sexuality, we need to talk about the Ottoman Empire, we need to talk about laws and institutions and religion probably somewhere in there,
Yep.
so on and so forth. Think of the related bits of the lesson that undergird that particular lesson. Every large point, and we're going to be talking about this later with scaffolding, every large point has a series of smaller points that build it up, right? So when you're thinking about your class, think about those smaller points that will boost the overall argument. What does your audience need to know? Meaning, what is crucial? It's very tempting when you're teaching a class to like have the scattershot approach, because you want to talk about all these things and then you're like, oh, and this is all really cool too. Hold on, narrow it down. What is the key crucial thing that you really need to know? If they could walk out only remembering one thing, what would that thing be? Okay, think about it in that terms. If somebody's taking a class on an ocarina, what is the main thing that you would want them to know? Okay, part 2, the sauce. Sauce gives a sandwich, a burger. It's a little flavor, a little zest, a little uniqueness, right? I'm a big fan of garlic aioli, maybe a little chimichurri on a steak burger, right? That's a me thing. But with that, I want to take that idea and turn it into a learning objective, which is to say, ask yourself this question if you're preparing a class. By the end of this class, students will be able to do what? That's your learning objective. So you structure your class around that. Gives that class your unique flavor here. If a random person, right, at the end of this class, if you walked out and some random said, hey, what did that guy teach over there? Right? You'll be able to say, oh, we talked about preparing a class and we kind of worked through that exercise about getting the class going. Right? My learning objective for the purposes of this class is that everybody has, one, an outline that they can work off of, and two, be able to think about the things that constitute a good class. Is this making sense so far? If it's not, please let me know, okay? With that, I wanted to put something called Bloom's taxonomy over here, which is the process, which is the process of learning. It's basically a taxonomy of learning, which is to say, people are more likely to remember something when they're able to engage in higher levels of thinking about that thing. What does that mean? It's one thing to memorize and regurgitate, like rote memorization. Everybody forgets that like the day after, right? It doesn't work. So you go that, and then you think about it and you understand the concept of, all right, I understand why this is the way it is, the way it flows, so on and so forth. And we build up and up and up and up to the point where you take that information and you create something new with it. So, with that in mind, yes, you have all that information about gender and sexuality, fine. What is the big thing that can be done creatively? When I say creative, I don't mean innovative, meaning it can be another version of a similar class that's been done in your terms, but it's the application of the thing that you learned, okay? That's what we're working on. Oh, I wanted to mention this. Demonstrate. So good classes have something that shows you that the people taking your class are able to actually apply what they're learning, right? If you just sit there and passively listen, you're not going to really get much. But if I ask you, right, do you have an idea of maybe a class that you'd like to teach?
Vaguely.
Vaguely? Tell me about it.
Being bratty bard.
Yeah, exactly. Well, how can we, or maybe like in more CA terms, how can we use Bardic to kind of make fun of the people in power? Which is a thing that historically happened all the time, right? The concept of the Joker and the clown in medieval period. So you see how like the application of something allows you to remember it a little bit more because it goes from just the lesson to the actual thing that you're doing. Okay? Moving on from that, toppings: lettuce, tomato, grilled onions, right? Pickles, maybe, depending on the day and how I feel like it. Sauerkraut, hell no, right? Unless it's on a hot dog. I digress. The point is, the toppings can sometimes bring people into the burger. Yeah, sure, it's meat on a bun, but what makes it distinctive, right? How do you bring people in? How do you attract people with it, right? With that, start by asking yourself, why is this important for you? Meaning, like, not, well, why do you care about it? That's a better way to say that. Not why it's important in the sense of, like, it's academic, we need to justify our reason for existing thing. Ask yourself, why do you care? Because an answer could be as simple as, because I do, right? Dig a little deeper underneath that and say, what is it about this class that you want to teach that really speaks to you? Why is this something that came up in mind? So, for example, ocarinas, why?
This feels dumb to say.
No, it doesn't. I believe, trust me, it doesn't.
I played Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time.
Hell yeah, one of the best games ever made.
I didn't realize that was a real instrument. I thought they just kind of made it up for the game, and I found out that was a real thing. I was like, wait a minute, I thought this was just, you know, a fantasy video game thing. So I started looking more into it. The more I learned, the more I was like, oh, this seems like it's really easy to pick up.
Right.
There's a lot of different things you can do with it. That kind of stuff.
Oh, so yes, and also there's different forms of ocarinas too. It's not just that one that Link uses. So absolutely. So what is the hook here? If you're going to take a class, if you're going to teach a class on ocarinas, maybe a hook could be, hey, you want to be like Link or like the hero of time? You know, that is a possible hook. How do you draw people in? You know, in order to draw people in, you have to ask yourself what draws you to them and how you can maybe project that out. Maybe it won't work. I bet, I'm willing to argue, I say this as a sexual sociologist, people gravitate towards energy and desire to share something. Right? So, in order to quote Prince Zuko here, you must look within yourself to save yourself from your other self, only then will your true self reveal itself. Prince Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Anyone? Thank you. I appreciate it. What makes this class fun and important to you? That's the question. Okay?
Well, like, how did you die in the 14th century? Could have been named Death and Illness in the 14th Century. Those are not the same ones.
Not the same class. And also, how do you die in the 14th century? Because I think grave finds are really cool. Right? Or burials are really cool. Or like medicine in the 14th century, I can get off on that. Not sexually, but like you get it. It's fun. So with that, once you find that thing that about the class that really speaks to you, you want to put it in text, unfortunately. What fell? My pin! That's okay. We'll leave that right there. It's been falling all day. Anyway, so how do you make that identifiable to other people? Personally, I like puns. But or the ability for like wordplay, fun language, right? You can use that as part of advertising, right? When you are saying that you're teaching a class. So for example, instead of Ocarina 101, which is boring, basic, and temporary, you can say something to the effect of become the hero of time, right? Wield the Triforce, right? Colon, basics of Ocarina play, right? Like something like that. Or like if we're talking about Ottoman Empire stuff, gender and sexuality, I don't know, you can make like a Turkish bottom joke or something like.
Yeah. I mean, it could also be, let's meet up at the cemetery.
Yeah. I like that. That's spooky. I like it. Yeah. Let's meet up in the cemetery. Date night at the cemetery. Gender and sexuality in a blank century Ottoman Empire. I like that. I very much like that. So something to bring it to attention. Shout out, by the way, to somebody by the name of Ezra Hayona. He's in Cleflands. He has a class called Bee as the Bees. I like the alliteration. It's about the apiary business in like Iberia, right? And it's just like 6-hour thing. It's amazing. It's divided into 2 parts. I love it. It's a big, I geeked out about it. But Bee as the Bees is short, catchy, punchy in a way that it's like, oh, what's this about, right? Or if you're like having a more of a practical class about like bead making, bead aggressive, bead aggressive, like something. Got you looking, right? Got you smiling.
Bead dazzle.
Right, bead dazzle yourself, right? So something like that. Let the subtitle or description explain what it is. Use the title as something catchy, okay? But from there, we're actually getting to the meat of the issue, right? Notes, folks. A burger can have all the fanciest toppings in the world, but if the meat or whatever you're using as that main bit is gross, nobody's gonna like it. Sorry, it is what it is. So with that, research. How do you do research? The different levels of research exist. You have your primary sources, which are we know what primary sources are, yes? Okay. If no, that's okay, let me know. Secondary resources. Oral traditions, especially if you're working with indigenous things, oral traditions are a big one, right? Something that you want to keep in mind. With that, you want to also involve discussions from like other like recognized authors. Like if you have an expert, like if you read a journal article, that's helpful. That's also research. Right? So you want to have a confluence of research materials that helps you paint the whole picture. With that, I want to point out this large piece of text right there. You got to learn what your main points are, and as an important bit, you have to learn what the story is you want to tell. All good teachers are good storytellers. Every single one of them. So, with that, with ocarinas, with gender and sexuality, right, or with the idea of bardic stuff. What's the story here, right? It's not just a recitation of data, but rather how you make this a narrative. Humans are hardwired for stories. It's one of our main evolutionary survival tools. So being able to use that and actually tell a story with whatever it is you want to teach on makes it all the more compelling. So for example, instead of just talking about bratty bards, right? Tell a story. What happens if you find somebody in period who would routinely make fun of the king of so-and-so? And what social pressures did he face? Right? Did you watch the movie The Northman?
Forever ago.
Okay, so remember that part where Willem Dafoe's character makes fun of like the king coming back from like raiding and whatever? TLDR, he makes fun of him, and everybody's like, "I'm gonna kill you," and then the king goes, "No, like that's his job. Like so it's okay. That's part of the game." So with that, instead of just talking about gender and sexuality, sure, you can have a part about the institutions creating those categories. But what if your story could be part of a date night story? Right? It's an idea. It's an idea. So, with being able to tell the good story is rehearsal. And we'll talk about this over and over and over again. But for now, I'm just going to say revise. Revise and revise and revise. Your first iteration of notes is going to be a scattershot. That's okay. It's better that it's on the page. And then you can revise until it's a cohesive story from A to B. Does that make sense? Okay. Learn why your data is important. Learn your main points. Learn why they're important. And learn how they fit together. Being able to connect those pieces is how you're able to tell a good story. Now, we'll finish off with the last bit of the burger, the bottom bun. The bottom bun is scaffolding. Has anybody heard this term before? Figured. Yeah. Okay. Scaffolding, for those of you who may not know, is the way that we teach something complicated or overreaching. We don't teach the big approach. We break it up into manageable chunks and along the path of the class or along the path of a semester, build up to a larger and more complicated iteration of the thing. So, with that, when you're teaching or planning your class, think about the main point that you want to teach, and then think about the things that students need to know during the course of that class, and focus on creating those. Meaning, the big point that you want to make, right, whatever that may be, happens at the end, and at the beginning, you can give them a teaser, give them a little taste of it, and be like, hey, this is what we're going to be talking about. But to get to that, this is how we're going to get that trajectory. Scaffolding is like the path in a forest. You know the clearing you want to get to, right? But in order to get to that clearing, you have to go through this path, right? And scaffolding is the winding of the path. If you want to teach something complicated, if you want to teach something difficult or intricate, you want to make sure that students have an ability to understand the finer points that make up the larger point. Wordplay, right? What is coded insults, right? It's not just about being a bratty bard. It's also about being able to get away with it. Anthony Jeselnik, modern comedian. One of the best forms of comedy, according to him, is being able to make fun of somebody or make fun of the audience and then get away with that. That's the humor, being able to get away with it. Now, day 2. As things are all coming together, applause, like, no? Okay, that's fine. Thank you, I appreciate it. Listen, I like Kronk, all right? I aspired in many ways to be like Kronk. I digress. So it's part 2, teaching day, showtime, baby, all right? Now, with that, there's a few rules that we have to get over, all right? We have to go through. Rules for yourself and rules for your space. For yourself, you have to be prepared. You have to know what you're talking about, right? You can't, I know that sometimes you get up here and then you blank. That's okay. Take a deep breath, but you know it. You have to know it. Second thing, excuse me, from there, you have to have backups. Digital files, preferably. I understand and agree with why people oftentimes have printed media. Great idea. But just in case something happens, your coffee spills, or they get blown in the wind, your dog ate it, whatever happens, have a backup. Same thing for digital. What happens if your laptop just falls or you're in a car crash, right? Hopefully not. But you'll be able to back up the system. This presentation, I have it in about 4 different places because you never know, right? And lastly, be rehearsing. Rehearse for your audience. Folks, this is a show. This is a performance, right? I'm showing off for you guys here. Every part of everything that I've been talking about, I've discussed at the very least at the last Thursday, right? Even the moments when I lean into somebody and make eye contact with, right? Being able to actually have that interaction with somebody is part of that show, right? For you bards, that might be a little easier than for the rest of us. But for the space that you're going into, know where you're going, meaning, yeah, sure, like physically know where you're going, and know that you're going too. Meaning, if you're signing up for a class, know that you are signed up for that class. Don't forget. Know when you are going, at what time, because we don't want to be late. And lastly, know where you are going. This space right here. Right? What does this classroom enable me to do? Like, I'm asking.
It has a projector.
It has a projector, move around, be able to actually like walk around and meet people. right? It's not just some dark room with lights in my face, right? So being able to learn that space is crucial for a good show, as it were. Hilla Stormbringer, by the way, she has a public speaking course. I went over her notes. I love them. If you find her, or if you know like who she is, find her and like ask for those notes. Those are immensely helpful. We'll talk about a little bit of public speaking here in a second, but I just want to make sure to give that shout out. So, classroom, acoustics and ambiance, what are the resources available? You mentioned projector, you mentioned being able to walk around, all that stuff, very good. Now, it's all a show, so act like it, all right? This is what I mean by rehearsing. How can you make the class engaging? Sparklers are lazy and useless. Fun doesn't mean fun in the superficial sense. Fun means fun in the purposes of this class in a way that makes people go, oh, I want to take that class. Or like, shoot, that was a really fucking cool class. I want to do that again. Something to that extent. And how do you make your class engaging? Well, think about what you want to teach. I remember we're talking about ocarinas and stuff, so a practicum might be a good idea, right? Yeah. Or have like loner ocarinas maybe, or have an idea of where people are at, maybe challenge some folks to learn a song, or together, like the purpose of the class today is that we're going to learn a song together, right? And then your class notes are going to be the historical background and all that stuff, right? So think about ways to make your class engaging. Think back to what I mentioned, by the way, about Bloom's taxonomy, right? The people retain information the best when they're actually creating something with it. So for bards, right, this is the time. Write a four-line thing of somebody making fun of somebody else and get away with it, right? For gender and sexuality, how can you make that engaging? Maybe you can put somebody in that culture. What does it feel to be embodied in the Ottoman Empire and be not straight? Good question, and adjust. So, or other examples here. If you're teaching about a culture, how can you put your audience in that culture, right? Or there's Her Grace Vukasin, also a Laurel. She has this butchery class that, like, sure, you can like lecture about butchering and stuff like that and like show them knives. What she did, to her credit, I think, is that she built Play-Doh molds of joints and taught people how to perform those incisions. Because it's not just about butchering, it's also, I'm also moving a lot, so, but I appreciate it. But it's also about the ability to understand conceptually that a good butcher is as efficient with their cuts as possible. So it's not just like the hacking, it's how can you do it in golf rules, which is to say the least amount of swings possible, right? So think about it like that. How can you make this very engaging? Now, with that in mind, you have to talk like you have something to say. Because you do. People came to this class. They're here because they want to be, right? Not just that, but you have to give them, I think you're ethically kind of required to give somebody your best effort when they come to your class. That's a philosophical argument. We may disagree on it, but we can talk about it at the very least. With that in mind, a few guidelines, right? When you're public speaking, be confident. Be confident. Even if you're not, even if you're shaking your boots and you feel the bead of sweat, just like go right down the middle of your back, that's okay. But from here out, we're projecting, we're confident, okay? Secondly, be not afraid to talk, meaning it's not just talking, it's also being able to actually address your audience. Does anybody here have like struggles a little bit with like public speaking? Okay, Gemma?
Yes. Okay, well, here we go.
Quick thing.
Yes.
Thank you for volunteering.
I know.
Do me a favor, introduce yourself to the class and then tell them what you'd like to teach on.
Introduce myself. Okay, my name is Gemma Borgia, and I would like to teach you about Chinese porcelain, because that's my next geek off.
Question. Does anybody hear the question marks during her introduction? My name is Gemma, and I'd maybe like to teach. Don't ask people, tell them. Do it again. Hi, my name is Gemma, and I'm teaching on...
Hi, my name is Gemma Borgia, and I'm going to teach you about Chinese porcelain.
Much better, right? There we go. Thank you, I appreciate it. So it's about being able to actually stand on it, stand in the spotlight, and say it, and speak, and be not afraid to do it. Also, by the way, slow your roll, folks. I'm zooming a little bit because we have an hour. But that being said, when you're teaching, one of the things that happens to people who are not used to public speaking is that they go too fast and they breathe in too much to the point where they're breathing so much and then they start yawning because their body needs to reset, right? With that in mind, don't be afraid to take breaths, right? Slow it down when you need to. But Roberto, I hear you say, you gallivanting, charming person you, what if I run out of time? Has anybody here heralded court before? Okay. Andreas, you know how long a moment of quiet feels in court, doesn't it?
Endless.
Endless. 20 seconds in silence here feels like an eternity. Actually, does anybody have a stopwatch? Can you time 15 seconds?
Sure can.
Send go. Let me know when. Is that over? Please, God, make it over.
Now
There it is. 15 seconds, folks.
Oh my God.
Do y'all realize how much time that is? So you actually do have time. I trust and believe. Have faith. And if you don't, that's okay. When you rehearse, because remember, I said good rehearsal is important, right? Keep a timer next to your rehearsal. And feel free to stumble and bleh about it. That's fine. But if you're unsure about when you are in time and space, look at the timer. I practiced this on Thursday, by the way, and I was like, oh my God, I'm running out of time. It's been half an hour. I still got another half hour, right? So I still got time, okay? Now, another rule that I'd like to give you, guideline. Not rules, more like guidelines. The yes and approach. If you've taken improv, this is a really fundamental muscle that you'll be using. But for class, sometimes things happen. Shit happens, and you have to roll with it. Not only that.
It's such a buddy know it all the time.
So, funny that you just mentioned that. Sometimes people will want to contribute to the class, to add something. And hey, I'm happy. That's great. That means you're engaged. Thank you very much. But, caution to the wind here, folks. No, not caution to the wind. Caution. Sometimes people will start talking, right? And then one person starts talking, and then the other person goes, well, if he can talk, I can talk, right? And it becomes a swirling miasma of chatting, and you're losing control of the classroom. Don't do that. Be not afraid to raise your voice a little bit and go, let's get back to this. Okay? That's okay. I saw you raise your hand and there's the time.
I was just going to say, if somebody starts contradicting you in your class, tell them that they can teach their own class.
Yeah. You know what? A great and graceful way to do that is to go, you know what? It sounds like you really know about this topic. I'm really curious to see to see your class on it next time we have an opportunity. Actually, maybe we can compare notes in the future. And that's me functionally going, fight me. That's me squaring up. And hey, if they follow through and they're good, you gotta respect the game, right? But if you'll let them take care of it, as it were. So with that, the yes and approach. And lastly, notes are helpful, but even better is being able to just go, right? Notes happen. You might need notes. I recommend you having notes in some form or another because sometimes you might lose your train of thought. It happens. That's okay. Something happens, and then all of a sudden you forget what you were talking about. So being able to have notes and be like, what? Okay, we're good, is helpful. In addition to that, remember, 15 seconds, felt like an eternity. I trust me when I say, when you grab your notes and take 5 seconds to find where you were, it feels eternal, but I trust that it's not. In fact, in court, when you attend court, you'll realize that there's a moment where the signet is giving the herald the scroll that they're going to read out. That's almost imperceptible to the audience. But let me tell you, as somebody who's been in there, you feel the length of time. That's for sure. Okay? Now with that, again, shout out, Hello Stormbringer, public speaking class. If you want the public speaking class, I highly recommend that you reach out. If you're wanting to take the non-prepared your own class one, it's over that way. This is no, I started at 3:30. This is how to prepare to teach your own class. You're probably looking at the next classrooms over. Some schedules have been mixed up.
Two schedules floating around.
Yeah. So we're dealing with a little bit of misinformation, but it is what it is, right?
People printed their schedules that brought the...
This class has half an hour, about 20 minutes to go yet.
Yes.
Yeah. You're welcome to hang out.
Apologies for the interruption.
No, you're welcome to hang out. So,
It may be in one of those classrooms
yeah.
that way.
All right, let's bring it back. So,
But Roberto, what if it's a no-show?
thank you, Gemma. Fantastic of you to ask.
Yes.
So, I have an answer for this. Grieve and move on. That being said, I don't think that answer is particularly helpful for a lot of folks sometimes because, hey, it's in my professional experience, people had to come to class, right? But what if they don't? I asked a bunch of laurels, and I said, hey, guys, hey, folks, I'm trying to figure this out. What if, right? Paulman, can you close the door, please? Thanks. What happens if? I got a few answers. I got grieve and move on, I got also, hey, you have an hour to yourself. Hang out, decompress, work on a little project, right? Another thing, it could be, hey, it may be that nobody shows up at class time, but like 2 people show up mid-class, and you get to hang out and chat with them, and it's a great time. And you learn more than you expected, and turns out you might have an idea for another class. Or it could be, hey, sorry, your class was scheduled literally against the finals of a tournament. This isn't you, it's nobody's fault, it's just, it is what it is. So give yourself some grace. If you try and fail on that one, give yourself some grace, try again next time, right? Yes?
I would also say sometimes events are small, and if you're super niche, there may be nobody there that's even.
Right, that they just may not know enough to be like, oh, I'm interested in this, right? So try a wider approach, right? Maybe a class can be more generalized, or at a larger event where there's more people who are more likely to be interested in the thing that you're interested in, okay? Now, with that, questions. Students will have questions. It is what it is. Try to anticipate what those are. In the process of developing notes and doing research, you'll be able to identify the points where people are probably not going to be clear on something. Major scales, for example, right? Or the idea of gender as something more than just an individual identity, as more of an institutional thing. I'm speaking sociologically, of course, right? Or the idea of like, wait, we can actually say these things? And that's okay, and that's part of it. Being able to identify and anticipate those questions is helpful. A good instructor, a good teacher will be able to identify and anticipate them. A great teacher will be able to not only identify and anticipate them, but also go further and say, you're asking about this, and also let me tell you about these other things. An excellent teacher will go, I don't know. Let me get back to you on that, actually. So, with that in mind, don't be afraid to admit that you don't know something. And when I say that, I mean that the audience won't go, oh, this guy sucks, you know? This guy stinks! They're not gonna kick you out of the SCA. Trust and believe. It's okay. But you're not gonna get banished from their majesties, that's fine. But if you don't know something, tell them and then follow through on that. Don't just stay in the I don't know. Say, hey, I don't know, man. That's a great question. Let me get back to you on this. And then in less than a week, be like, hey, I looked up what you were saying and you were asking about. I didn't know, but turns out it's this. This is where I got it from. And hey, you might know something. And that might teach you to anticipate that question again. Because if somebody has a question, it's likely that other people have the same question, right? So, something to keep in mind. Now, with that in mind, for the folks who came here a little late, I'm sorry, I gave everybody here who was early an assignment to think and develop a class that they would like to teach based on a subject matter that is particularly important to them. No, we don't need to meritocratically justify it based on like why it's important or whatever. I don't give a shit. The fact that it matters to you is why it's important. Okay? So with that in mind, the folks who are thinking about the classes that they were able to that they wanted to teach, I'm going to ask you 2 questions. First question: do you think you have something, a little bit of an outline in mind? Somewhat. If I gave you a week, 2 weeks to research, think you can pull something together?
No, yeah, research is already done.
Ha! Great. What about you?
Yeah, 2 weeks. Absolutely.
2 weeks, absolutely. 2 weeks? 2 weeks, absolutely. Great. So that's the first question. Second question: think you all can give it a try? Maybe at the next possible teaching event? Some of y'all already taught before. Shut the fuck up. But those who haven't taught before, you think you can try it at another event? Maybe? Maybe at a baronial one where there's like less pressure? I encourage you to do so, okay? With that, folks, that's pretty much all I have. These are the resources that I have. Most of these are academic, by the way. So I'm starting with like Pedagogy of Later Press by Paulo Freire, Understanding Design, In the Trenches, Designing and Teaching Sociology courses. But I'm also going into, really quick, that Bloom's taxonomy that I talked about how people remember and retain more information when they're actually able to make something with it. That's from the American Association of Medical Colleges. But like universities have their versions of that same graph. It's a time-tested thing. Feel free to look it up, Bloom's Taxonomy on Learning. Very, very helpful. It also is a very helpful resource to like think about how you can provide exercises and create an engaging class. Right? Something to think about. Lastly, Hillis Stormbringer, and also each other, folks. This is an educational society. If I don't know something, I can ask people, right? I don't know about brewing. Hey, if I wanted to learn about brewing, what should I read? Right?
Right.
Right. And that's a quick example. But the point is that we're an educational thing. We like geeking out. And odds are, especially the Order of the Laurel, if you tell them, hey, I'm really interested in this thing, I don't know where to start, they're going to go, oh, great, and then show you where to go. They might overshare. Heads up. But that they have an award for it. It is what it is, right? And that's what we're here for. So have the confidence to try, because ultimately I think that this is something that enriches not just yourself as the individual person teaching it, but also the society in general. But not to wax too much philosophic about it, I'm going to leave y'all here. Does anybody have any questions? If you do, please raise your hand. By the way, class notes right there if you want to. So thank you very much, everyone. I appreciate it.